Here are 10 marketing tips that if you have in your pocket can transform your life and your business. Let's get straight into it. Number one marketing tip I can give you right now is referral marketing. Now, I know this might sound like social media influencers cost money and I can't pay them, but actually referral marketing is very, very clever. I think basically if you can get some social media influencers on your side who love your brand, and then you give them a percentage of the money they generate by driving traffic to you, then I think it can be a win-win for everybody involved. Now, the key to it, in my view, is you've got to make sure your moral code is aligned with whoever that influencer is. Make sure they would genuinely love your product, genuinely like it. So one way to do this, and I've done this with a few businesses I've invested in, is see who's actually already posting about you. See who's already sharing things about your business, are engaged and enjoying it, and then get them on board. Micro influencers, in my view, are much more powerful than the bigger players with big numbers. The micro influencers have much more of a personal following, often more engaged audience. So going for those micro influencers can be incredibly powerful. I call this 1 + 1 = 11 marketing. If you can take your product and your scalability and work with, say, an influencer that really only has a following, then it can be dynamite. Number 2, leverage the data within your infrastructure. I'm always shocked how many people don't actually look at the analytics to see what's working and what's not. Also, for example, go see what videos or content you put out there has been popular and analyze why. Was it the time of day that you sent it? Was the personal nature of it very interesting for people? What was it that actually made that video go viral or made that video at least more popular than the others? And try to replicate it. The third thing out of the 10 tips I want to give you today on marketing is this. You have to include your story more in all your marketing materials. So often I don't think people put enough of themselves into their marketing. Sometimes it's here's my product and this is what we do, but not why you do it. People really need to start including their personal stories in everything they do. I always do it with mine. Why am I here? Well, I left school at 15 and started a business and didn't have any help. It was hard. I was lonely. So today I'm going back and helping that 15-year-old me. The fact that quite often it's more like someone your age, I'm still here to help you because that's my story. I wanted to help the younger me. So that personal story of what happened to me is part of what I'm doing today. My marketing includes this message and you need to do the same. The fourth thing I want to share with you today is this concept of being early on a platform. Now, there's all sorts of new platforms popping up, and actually I think that creates a huge opportunity for you to get out there and make your mark. So for me, for example, 10 days ago, I went on Clubhouse. I now have nearly 3,500 followers in a very short period of time, and I've seen that platform as almost a land grab, an opportunity to really be a part of a community early on and be a part of the early adopter cycle. And if you're there at the beginning of YouTube or you're there at the beginning of Facebook and you're making a big effort on that platform, you as a small player, and I consider myself a small player, can make a big impact. I'm making a big impact on Clubhouse. And so why don't you guys go out there and look for platforms that might work for you? It might not be Clubhouse, that might not be the right one for you, but go out there and see what emerging platforms might be. Twitter have a new space coming out. Facebook are launching a new system. So it's not just new social networks, it's systems within new social networks that could be really powerful if you learn to adopt them. And in my view, a way of breaking through the noise and making your marketing stand out. Number 5, own a hashtag. Now, I know you have heard a million times around putting in the right hashtags. I've put a whole series of videos out there on how to use social media properly, which you can click to get here. But I want to talk more about you owning a hashtag in particular around your subject matter. So for example, personally, I always try to own my own name, Simon Squibb, as a hashtag. If you go on TikTok, put on Simon Squibb, I've had over 2 million views on that hashtag. So if people like you, they want to follow what you're doing, they can just hit your hashtag and connect to your company or you personally directly. But then, of course, getting quite niche, trying to own entrepreneurship, for example, which is something I do. I'm always putting entrepreneurship in there. It's not as popular as entrepreneur or entrepreneurs, But if anyone's looking for any insights on entrepreneurship, I tend to come up, and that's the idea, trying to own a hashtag. Number 6 on my marketing tips today is podcasts. Now, I know you've heard this before. Do a podcast, create a podcast. I still think it's relevant, even though there's nearly 1 million podcasts out there now. It doesn't matter. It's still a big opportunity. On YouTube, for example, there's over 15 million YouTube stars. So we've got a long way to go on the podcast space. It's still just beginning. You'll still be early. But if you don't want to create your own podcast, which I know is a lot of work because I do one, then you can actually also leverage other people's podcasts. So make sure you make a list of those 800,000 podcasts and go and actually find out which one you should be on and push yourself out there. Let other people market you. If you go on someone else's podcast, quite often they will promote it. And that can lead to exposure for you and your company, your product and your brand that you don't have to go and work hard for. Of course, I always ask my guests to promote the podcast. I think that's only polite that if you go on someone else's podcast, you do promote it, you do support it. But ultimately, it becomes this 1 + 1 = 11 model I was mentioning earlier. So get onto other people's podcasts. Now, just one tip. Anybody that's already got a podcast that you might find useful. If you're interviewing a guest that's well known, then try to own that person's name on search engines. So for example, we recently interviewed Nick Jenkins. We've made sure that Nick Jenkins' name and transcript from the podcast is up on our website and SEO. So when you type in his name, our podcast comes up. So anyone popular, like Nick Jenkins was the founder of Moonpig, people do search for him quite often. So we aim to be part of the search history that his name then comes up on, and that can lead traffic to your website. So that's just a little tip for anyone that's actually running a podcast out there that might be useful. We might even cut this little clip out and put it as a separate piece because it could be useful outside of just generally marketing. My next tip for you on this front is focus. If you want to get big impact on marketing, try to give yourself the time to get one thing well. So for example, not so long ago, there was a big campaign with Weetabix and baked beans. In a campaign, they focused in on the concept and were really careful on the execution side. And then it didn't matter what platform they put it on, it became a big hit. And so I suggest you do the same. Copy what works. Try to focus in on a particular idea and give it all your love, as opposed to spreading yourself thin across many things and many platforms, trying to do many different elements of social media marketing, for example. Number 8 on my tips for marketing. Don't think people are leveraging groups enough within social networks. Since things like lockdown have happened and coronavirus has happened, I think, of course, more people are online, in particular groups, socializing and connecting. And I just don't think people are leveraging these groups properly. People hardly post in groups, they hardly connect with communities inside these groups, and that means as a marketeer there's a huge opportunity there. So myself, every single day I post in entrepreneurial groups on different social networks. Sometimes the videos and content goes viral and sometimes it doesn't, but I'm there constantly contributing. Within certain social networks like Facebook, they actually give you little badges like contributor, conversation starter. When you start getting these badges, the algorithm lifts you to the top as you start making posts in these groups, and a lot of people have not followed through, being persistent and consistent in groups, and are missing a marketing opportunity. So go fix it right now. Go pick a group, start putting some content in there, being a part of that community, adding value, which is very important inside groups, but ultimately, in the end, creating a network effect where you don't have to build the community. It's already sitting there in these social networks like LinkedIn and Facebook. Number 9 on my list of top 10 marketing tips. Now, this is more like a nuance of marketing. My feeling is don't brag on social media. Give value. So when I've gone on Clubhouse, where I'm now quite popular, I've given. I'm helping people. Last Saturday, 187 people came on and asked a question, and we answered it, me and the crew involved on that Clubhouse group. And I think that's the key. You've got to go and give value. And I know a lot of the time people are selling in marketing. They think marketing is selling. It's not. The best marketing is give value and then let people come to you and buy whatever it is you've got to offer because you gave them value. Go in there, be humble, be real. And the more genuine you get on social media, my view is, 1, the more sustainable it is, and 2, the more output you get over time, because you can keep it up. If you go in there and fake it, then you won't win. But I absolutely, with all my heart, feel like a very important marketing tip is don't brag. Number 10, and I actually think the most important one, email marketing. I know it sounds like an old concept, but it is still so relevant. In a world where you can't reach a lot of your social media followers unless the algorithm lets you, email marketing does not have this problem. You get someone to drop their email address into your system, you can communicate with them for as long as they want to communicate with you, direct, in their inbox, regularly. I have managed to outsource a lot of my DM reply comments and so on, but I'm still having to reply to my emails because they're often quite personal. So I feel like that is still something that a lot of people hold personal to them. Email comes in from any part of the world at any time and is incredibly powerful. And so many people are not collecting email addresses and you're missing a huge marketing opportunity. So fix it today. There are so many ways you can do it. I built my websites, for example, on GoDaddy. GoDaddy actually offer a back-end system. Platforms like Wix do the same. Of course, you can even go and use MailChimp or one of these email engines. I use Active Email, for example. There's so many good systems out there that help you manage the data, collect the data, organize the data, segment it into who needs what, when. And absolutely, it's something, if you're not doing, I would say forget the other 9 points I've just given you and completely focus in on this, because once you've got that email address, all the other things I've mentioned today can get fed by the email address that you have of the person who's your fan, your client, and the relationship you have. That's it, folks. That's my top 10 marketing tips for today. I hope you found it useful. Again, if you did, I'd really appreciate a share. And I look forward to seeing you implement some of these marketing tips. If I've missed one, feel free to let me know in the comments. And I'll be doing a follow-up video about marketing tips because I've got another 50 that I think might be useful. We go live every week with an expert on things like marketing as well. So you're welcome to join our lives and get those insights in real time and ask questions from our experts in real time anytime. Have a wonderful day.